to Terminus?
As far as the
Yeah, I have
Kickstarter
it
link,
set up here. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Kickstarter
I'd
link
like to
isn't
get my eyes on it.
I don't think
the
I have the
notification.
Kickstarter.
The notification page isn't up yet. I was planning on having it up by now, but
I like it. I like it. So Jeff, this is like the sneak attack. Like now that we got you off guard, now we like give you the ambush questions.
oh no, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll storm off.
No, but I hope
God
people like
damn
that.
you!
That's right. I knew this was a setup.
I hope people add like that where I added the scream and the bloody hand. I thought that would have been cool.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah.
But welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Comics Della Morte, episode 94, almost to 100. Heck yeah. And we have a brand new guest, Jeff Haas. Is that how you pronounce it? Haas?
Haas.
Haas.
Yeah.
Haas.
But Haas. But what I love is this guy has brought on several guests onto our show. He's always like, hey, can I bring this person? Can I bring that person? So yeah, props to him to always reaching. And it's been great to, have people actually want to come onto our show. So before we get into your stuff, like how did you actually come and how did you find us exactly? Because you just messaged me out of the blue one day. Hey,
yeah,
can I get this person? And you just came back and forth so many times.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think it just kind of happened. I think I was doing a search online for different podcasts that I was seeing on Facebook, and I came across yours. Like, all right, these seems like good guys. I'll plug them with guests to an annoying level.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. We appreciate it.
No worries. I got more comments. So
for sure.
Excellent.
Awesome. Props out to that. So, Jeffrey, before we get into it, tell a little bit of people about, what made you fall in love with comics in the beginning and what made you want to pursue it as a career.
All right. I'm a second-generation comic book nerd. My father is the original comic book nerd in the family. He got me started, but the first comics I remember buying myself I was 9, but I know I had a few before then. My father would give to me every so often, and I look at his collection, which is massive. So over time, I just got sucked in, and it's one of those things where I think it just gets in your blood, where once it's in, it's really hard to pull back out. And I've been reading comics now for over 30 years, and you just love. I mean, I've been buying Green Lantern. I think I have every Green Lantern issue now since the 1960s. I mean, it just something that I just kept getting sucked into deeper and deeper. And at some point I decided...
Love Green Lantern.
Yeah, I decided, why not do it yourself? If you like reading them, you may like writing them, so give it a shot. I just kept doing it. And let's admit, this is a great genre. Comics are the great genre, I think, because
it's the best. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. That should definitely be, like, if we did sound bites, like, that's it. Like, horror is the best, but it's comics. Like comics is Superman. Like comics is undefeatable. So no, it's like there's nothing better than reading a comic and then wanting to do it, or reading a comic and then wanting to like capture that same feeling that made you enjoy it so much.
Because there's no boundaries. Anything is possible in a comic book. You can go almost prose with images. You can go horror.
Yep.
You can go experimental. Anything is possible, and because of the relative inexpense of doing a comic book versus, let's say, a movie or TV show, you can experiment with anything. You can try anything. And
yeah, you can be Michael Bay. Like you don't have a budget to blow out for explosions.
Exactly, 100%.
Yep.
Hey, I recognize that page.
Yeah.
Hello, familiar page.
Yeah.
So this. I had a run of minis as well. Oh, sorry, Ronnie. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just trying to set everything
Okay.
up.
No, I was just saying, like, I had a run of
so with
minis.
Terminus, the end of life. Sorry, I'm just having delay, bud. You could go.
Oh yeah, we get ready to fight. But no, I'm joking, Ronnie. No, what I was saying was, like, as somebody who had a run of minis, but also has long form stories they want to tell. How do you write a bunch of little things? Do you just start at the beginning and go for it? Because it's a very different mindset when you do the mini comics versus doing long form stuff. Like, it's really created a hiccup almost in how I write, or it did for a little bit. I seem to be coming out of it now, but how do you approach it?
Well, I mean, going back, basically, I start off with just the concept. There's always an idea that hits me, and then you kind of get a sense. And the more I write, the more I get a sense of how long it takes to tell a particular story. I'm often wrong, but I'm usually in the ballpark. And then it's just a question of determination and deciding to do it. There's the one I did, Santa Claus, which is a 2-issue series, about 40-something pages. It's just because the series took 44 pages to tell, so that's how long it became. When I did Sanctus, that one is supposed to be 2 volumes eventually, 2 volumes, and it just took 88 pages to tell the first volume. It took 100-something pages to tell the second volume. It's just a question of what does the story demand, and I try not to get concerned with the length of the story. I'm not trying to make a short story or a long-form story. I'm trying to tell my story.
You're telling a story. I got you.
And however long it takes, it's just I don't want to get discouraged by the length, because there's a lot of good stories that will be lost if you let that discourage you, I think.
Absolutely. Yep. Okay. That makes sense. You know what you want to hit, and then you go for it.
I cross my fingers and then I go for it.
I love it. Yep. That's the honest truth of writers. Like, we have the same sketch process. It's just, it looks different because it's writing, it's not art, but there's thumbnails, there's rough sketches, and I like the rough sketches the best. Like, I feel like that's where the story is, like, really starting to take form. But yeah, it's a very interesting process. And you mentioned earlier how you usually get in the ballpark, but it usually takes me a couple of passes to really, like, find, especially when I'm doing horror, to find that point that I'm trying to make, to find that, whether it's a point or whether it's like the horror moment. You know what I mean? I know what it looks like, but sometimes I'm a little bit off the mark. And so you do have to discipline enough to, because it can all be shocking. It can all, have a jump scare, but I still want you to like shudder a little bit after the jump scare. I want you to think about the jump scare and then get a little bit more uneasy from it. And it takes a minute. It's not always just, here's a story, like beat. You kind of got to refine and polish a little bit. And I don't know. That's kind of what I do here. I just kind of ramble a little bit. But
I mean, the funny stuff, like you said, I try to map out what I'm planning. I will say with Terminus, and the end of all Terminus, I've changed it recently to at the end of all Terminus. Is that actually with that book, I'm trying to let loose a little bit the control of the story a little bit, and seeing what it is like to write that way, let the story kind of take me. Usually I'm very OCD about the story. I map it out page by page, panel by panel, and I definitely know I have these beats. I'm going to hit it every scene, and make that connection. With Terminus, I'm trying to back off a little bit and try to let the story kind of take me a bit. Though I do have several beats I do know I'm going to hit along the way. I am trying to give it a little bit more control, which I think is a little more scary as a writer, but I think that makes it a little more fun to be like, let's see what happens when you let the reins go a little bit and you see where the story is going to take you, and see if any, I mean, obviously I know the end point. I know what's going to happen at the end of the series. The last scenes are already in my head, done, written, it's all there. But I kind of want to let it loose a little bit to see how I get there, just a little bit.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
And how many And how many issues do you have planned?
A lot. I mean, a little bit's going to depend on the thing about a story like this in the long form is that there are many jumping off points where I can cut the story, wrap it up, make it happen. And a lot depends on the demand of the series. If people love it, I obviously have a lot of issues I have in mind, a lot of beats I want to hit. If I'm finding that I'm scraping by, I need to wrap this sucker up because it's drying up, then obviously I can condense it down to 20 issues. Ideally, it's going to go longer. Not indefinitely. Like I said, I have my ending. I know the beat I'm hitting. It's not indefinite, but I don't want to give the exact number quite yet.
That's fair. Especially if it's longer than 20. Like at that point, it's just go along for the ride.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. The worst thing I would want to say is like it's this many issues. Then at some point, like around issue 12, I'm like, okay, this is done. I can't do any more of this. That just like embarrassing. So I'm not going to say it's quite yet, but I decided for this story, unlike my others, I'm going to let it run. I'm going to let the story hopefully develop in a good, progressive. Eventually, the story will play itself out kind of way instead of trying to limit myself to I want this many issues, 3, 4, 6, to see what happens with it. And then there's so many characters, and the cast is so large, and there's so many aliens, there's so many plot points I can hit. I want to see if there's an opportunity to tell it all.
Nice.
So besides what we have in the description, can you talk a little bit more about, the whole storyline minus and some of the species that you have going on in this the book?
All right, so for the readers who are not following my Facebook page, which I'm sure there's a lot of you out there. So basically, the story works like this.
It's in the description, guys. Go follow.
Yeah, the story takes place in the distant future. I'm not giving an exact year. It's not overly relevant, but it's a very far future in which conceivably the species can move out of the bounds of the universe. In this concept of the story, the universe does have an end boundary, which is potentially in astrophysics. There's some thought that there is an end to the universe. If there is a boundary. So the idea being there's something called the rip, which is at the point where dark energy is expanding to such an extent so quickly that even the molecules of certain things in the universe are being ripped apart, causing the universe itself to eventually tear itself apart and die. So the final 7 species in the universe, sentient species in the universe, have created a ship called the Terminus with the goal of getting out of the universe as fast as humanly possible to see what's out there and save themselves from annihilation. So there's 7 species. One is obviously humans because we're human writing it, so it's just going to happen. Those are my human. That's President Lamar. She's the captain.
Only a non-human would say that.
President Lamar. She's the
I love that ship design. That's an awesome spaceship design.
Yeah,
the artist did a good job with that.
That's Brad Shipp. He's phenomenal. He does. I believe all his art is through digital. It kind of has a digital look to it. And like I said, the humans are the primary crew of the Terminus. It was built on Earth. President Lamar is the leader. She's only president and also the captain. And then there's 6 other species. Each one, you can probably guess where its inspiration comes from. There's the Gadakians, which is sort of a warrior species. If you want to read into the Klingons, sure, why not? I guess every species concept has been borrowed by Star Trek anyway, so might as well reference them. Those guys are the secret to who they are, but they seem very small, they're very passive, they're very quiet, and the question of who they are and what the culture really is going to be a story that's going to be revealed deeper into the series. But they do become important later on. There's the acolytes of DeVoe, which is sort of like, read into it as space Catholics, as it were. There's definitely some inspiration of the Catholic Church. The leader is very similar to a pope, things of that nature. Obviously, there's some allegory going on between my conversation there and some religious allegories right there. It's just how I do things.
Nice. I dig it.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, there's going to be some chance to offend probably, but it is what it is, and I appreciate and I welcome the offense.
I love it.
There's the Laurelians, which is a plant-based species. I guess the closest you can connect to them is sort of like an Ent in Lord of the Rings. Very old, very wise. The Xrakians are a clone species. There's only two that are on the ship, Alpha and Beta, and and they contain the blood that they're going to restart their species, which is only a clone species. Every member of the species is exactly the same. They look exactly the same. Personality-wise, extremely similar. So there's only needs to be two on the ship, Alpha and Beta, and we'll kind of find out what happens with them as the story goes on. Their story kind of becomes very important about 3 issues in. There's the Link, which is a computer-based life forms. They're very logical, kind of a storal species. They're a unified mind species. There's a question of how do they feel towards organics who are short-lived while they can potentially be immortal. So that's become very important as well. So every species fits kind of sort of a trope. They are allegory of certain concepts like technology, ideas of biology, religion,
Gotcha. Yeah.
warrior cultures, humanity, different aspects of us that are spread into different species to give us a chance to kind of examine humanity through the eyes of these offshoot species.
Yes, I dig it.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll go into a little more details after issue 3 on how these species all come together, how they all get aboard the Terminus. But the first 2 issues is kind of like the intro. It kind of gives you a sense of the politics on the ship, who's in control, why are they in control, kind of get a sense of the interaction among the different species, how do they react towards each other. Because believe it or not, and at the end of the day, most of them hate each other. They're very diametrically opposed species. So, like the warrior species are not a fan of the acolytes at all, the religious species, because once again, different philosophies. One's more warrior, more faith-based. Difference of you can almost say a Darwinian view of survival of the fittest versus a faith-based view of the world. The Link, which is a view of their own superiority as a immortal technological species, things of that nature. And it's going to be kind of how they play out on each other. And eventually, the question is, how will they eventually survive this, and who will survive?
Right.
Because the body count of this comic book is going to be absolutely massive. We're going to start off in the hundreds of thousands, and we're going to end up probably in like 9 or 10. So we're looking at a huge body count before this is over, and a lot of death, a lot of fighting, a lot of action, and it'll be a question of who gets there, how they got there at the end, and what does that mean for us and humanity that they are the remaining group.
I like it.
That's awesome. I dig that. That's the fun thing about horror or sci-fi. You could play around with it so much, Yeah,
I think
especially sci-fi. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I think sci-fi works best as an allegory. The very best shows in sci-fi, Star Wars, Star Trek, whatever, is always works best when it's an allegory or based or discussing a philosophy of something. And it allows fiction to discuss bigger concepts, and that's when sci-fi works.
I've always said writing is relatability.
Yeah.
And if you can take something in outer space but connect people to it, you got them. Because now, you give people space to feel their feelings a lot of times when you anthropomorphize things, or you put their personal crisis on a species that's not even from the same planet or galaxy as you are. It's like now you can connect and you can cut loose and you can feel it. And that's sci-fi is kind of built for it, like more than just about anything else. I use it with horror just because of my upbringing, but I think that sci-fi is, if horror is my favorite sandbox, I think sci-fi is one of the biggest. It's one of the deepest sandboxes because there's really sky's the limit.
I agree. The whole idea to me of sci-fi and almost any literature, but for me, sci-fi is that it creates a context to have a bigger discussion because it allows people to argue things from a common experience coming, which is the story, and allows enough distance so people don't get as offended. So I mean, if I have these, like I said, the space Catholics or whatever they were, I mean, you can easily get offended with the concept that you could argue about it. However, by making it alien, by making it a little bit distant from us, it allows the conversation to become a little more open, a little more free, and less chance for offense, and allows the conversation to happen, which I think are always important in conversation. Sci-fi is perfect for creating that allegory, that context. And like I said, Star Trek is at its best when it does it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Star Trek does amazing work with that. And just I like when you were writing this, like how much input did you have in the beginning? It's like, okay, these are the type of species that I want. And did you have a vision on what they look like in your head, or did you give like the artist like freedom to like create what they should look like?
Okay, so basically how it started off with, believe it or not, it was an idea that just kind of popped in my brain. And I actually had another story I was writing at the time. Actually, it was going to be a one-shot story. And unfortunately, this idea took over and kicked out the other story. I was like, all right, well, I'm dropping this one. I'm doing this one, my Terminus instead. And I started off with breaking down the species, and then I broke down the basic plot points, make sure I had an ending of the story. And then as far as visually, I will totally be honest, I'm not great visually. I have some basic concepts of what I want things to look like, but Brad, the artist, had to take over and use his vision to really make it work. And a lot of what you see of how things look is Brad being a great artist and a great visual guy. And I think as a writer, I think it's important to realize usually the artist is visually stronger than you are. Their entire life is visual. Let them come up with the visuals. They are going to be better than you at it. Let them do it. Give them control. And on that, though, when you give the artist some control, they will be more invested and be happier with what they're doing, and the work will be better. Let the artist be the artist.
Yeah. Yeah. As writers, we are responsible for setting the table. Like, but if you have to leave your table setting and somebody that's better at cooking the steak than you are, you're in their way. It's on, even if it's 20% worse and you get 80%, it could have been better if both people are like sticking to their strong suit. What did you show up to do? What did you show up to do?
I agree 100%. I 100% have faith in Brad to do great work. And like I think the best thing for me to have done is to back up and said, I kind of thought about this. Do what you think is the best. And then, and we went back and forth a little bit. So some stuff he showed me, I was like, can you do more of this or more of that? And then he, knocked it the ballpark after that. But yeah, let the artist be the artist. Don't be an arrogant writer and be like, this was my idea. This is how I wrote it down. Let them do their thing. If you're going to fail as an writer, if you don't let the artist be a partner and do their job.
Yep.
Yeah. Facts. That's all about partnership.
Exactly.
And, sometimes the artist could make something look better than you ever thought of.
That happens so frequently. So frequently. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, and it's challenging at time. I mean, for me, who's a writer and the artist at the same time, like I'm trying to grow both of my skills at the same time instead of just focusing on one.
Oh, I agree completely. But like I said, I do agree. I think there's a lot of times where Brad came out with something on the panel, and I was like, okay, better than I thought. Well done. I didn't have that idea in my head.
Right.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And like I said, the worst thing you can be as a writer is an asshole. Back off. Let them. If you're that controlling over your script, you're probably
do it yourself.
Failing. Right.
Yeah.
Try it yourself, man. Good luck.
Yep.
Man, I definitely can't wait to read more about this series. Like, I don't know, I don't know if you ever seen this movie, but it just had you talking about that movie made me, talking about your comic, maybe thought about a movie that I think doesn't get enough credit, and that's Titan A.
Oh, okay, yes. I'm familiar with
that.
It's been a while. It's Matt Damon as the voice of the main character, right? Yes. It like I said, I think
just, go ahead.
No, I think people will. I mean, don't get me Titan was a great movie, and
Mhm.
like I said, the visuals were fantastic. And I think when people give the end of all Terminus a shot, I hope they love it. I mean, it's not going
Oh
to be
yeah,
for
I
every
mean, from what I've
single.
seen, is amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, if someone can see things of a different movie that can, it inspires, or they feel connects them to
Hmm.
what I'm doing, that's fantastic too. It means hopefully I did something right. If something successful out there is is somewhat similar, I'll take it.
Right.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, if your book does so well, I mean, with all the different species, it would be fun to hope one day that some cosplayers wants to dress up as different species from your comic. That'd be pretty cool.
If a cosplayer, if I'm at a convention, a cosplayer is dressed as one of my characters, I'll freaking shit myself. I'll be so excited.
Facts.
I, the reason,
or somebody backs up the Brinks truck, and
oh, yeah.
you know what I mean. Like, I would choose
Hmm.
the option for that and cosplayers. You know what I mean?
I
Right.
am not I'm not a proud artist. If Netflix was to knock on my door, and be like, "Hey, we'll buy your property," before they say "will," I've already sold it. I'll be like, "There you are, guys." Enjoy.
Yeah, you just bought the next idea. Take it.
Right.
Hmm.
I mean, there's
That's
certain
awesome.
things as a comic book that are great moments in the industry when you're working, and
Hmm.
I would say your great
Yep.
moments are when you sign the comic book, when someone buys it and they ask you to sign it. That's probably great feeling number one. When you hit your goal on a Kickstarter, it's great feeling number two. And I would say the
Yeah.
next level will be when someone dresses up as your character. You've done it.
Yeah, you connected to somebody.
Facts.
Somebody
Yes,
got it, and that's pretty
indeed.
Hmm.
cool. Yep.
And I just hope I recognize. I'll be like, wait, that looks similar. Who the hell is this person? They'll just stare at me for all day. What do
Right.
you want?
Yeah.
What do you want from? Oh shit! But no, that'd be
So
one.
with
Go ahead.
so with you writing and everything, like, are you a big Star Wars and Star Trek fan? I mean, it would seem like you are.
I am a huge nerd.
Yeah.
In a lot of areas. I love Star Wars. Not as much as I wasn't not as big into it as I used to be. I used to buy the books and I used to read all the novels and stuff like that. I'm not there anymore.
Yeah.
But Star Trek is actually what I'm becoming bigger and bigger fan of right now. I just finished binging the Star Trek movies. I'm watching this today. I watched the originals. With the second season on the original series of Star Trek. I mean, Star
Hmm.
Trek is can be so many different things just for so many different people, and just every series is a little bit different. They're all fun, and
Yep.
I absolutely love. You gotta love Star Trek. There's everything in sci-fi over probably the last 50 years is inspired by Star Trek. It's sort of like superheroes and Superman. I don't care what you've
Yep.
done, Superman has inspired you on some level. Even if you don't like Superman,
Absolutely. Yep.
you got to give him credit. And Star Trek is that for me. Everything if you do sci-fi, you gotta tip your hat to Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can acknowledge that. It's not.
Hmm.
I'm a Star Wars. I'm a Star
Awesome.
Wars fan
Yeah,
over Star Trek, but you can't deny
Yeah.
the importance of Star Trek over really society as a whole. Like
yeah,
flip phones, for crying out loud. You know what I mean? Like it's all those are all seeds that got planted from a kid that was watching sci-fi and brought it, pulled it through the tunnel, pulled it through the portal.
yep.
Hmm.
And and it's been around for so many years now that generations have now been born that have only ever known a world of Star Trek, and that's phenomenal. And you know, if anyone wants to ever connect something I did with Star Trek, you'll make my day. If you said, "Hey, that reminds me of this from Star Trek," that's cool. I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take every comparison you want to make.
I always say that, like, if my comic or something that I wrote was in Stephen King's trash, I'm like, hey, not yours. You know what I mean? It's mine.
Like I said, I'd be so happy. And and I've had a chance to kind of immerse myself in Star Trek through my other podcasts that I do. I get to interview some people there, and
Yep.
I don't know. I love it. And the people who do Star Trek are such wonderful people. And my day, one day I'll wake up and Jonathan Frakes will call me up and be like, "Hey, I'm going to direct your movie, your comic book into a movie." I'll be like, "There you are, life made."
Yeah. I love it. Next Generation it's the best for me. Like it really is. It's just overall a fantastic story. The movies were all solid.
The characters,
it wasn't a world beater for me, but it always worked.
Yeah.
It was always on at the barber. I remember it was on at the barbershop. If you were at the barbershop too late, it was like Star Trek: The Next Generation would come on, and I was like, okay, like, and you watch it, and you like, okay, it's a pretty good story. Like, even if you're not into it, like, it's a pretty good story. Yeah. Like those Q episodes.
Oh yeah,
fantastic.
Oh yeah, Q is amazing. Great character, and then.
What's up, Kathleen?
What's up, sis? It's my sister.
And yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%.
The thing is with I was going to say, the cool thing is with Star Trek Next Generation, like I would watch that with my dad and stuff because you had Geordi that was part of the show, and then you waited that night and watched Star Trek with your dad or your family, and as a kid, you just drew to Geordi right away, and then you had Data and then Lieutenant Wolf, just so many great characters and so many great stories that were built off of those characters.
Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't say how important Geordi LaForge was for kids who grew up like me. Number one, like black kids, but broke kids that grew up and all we really had for external real life entertainment that we liked was reading Rainbow.
Oh yes.
And LeVar Burton like opened up all these books for us for years and years. And then as we get a little bit older, about the time where sci-fi is just cool for the age, this guy's an engineer on the Enterprise. And he's got like a visor over his eyes. Like, how awesome is that? It's just one of the best little pockets that I could ever imagine. And he should have been hosting Jeopardy because that also would have completed that circuit. But that's another story for another time.
I agree 100%. And reading Rainbow, I grew up on reading Rainbow. And I will even admit, as an adult, I watched some of the episodes again just to relive that nostalgia.
Never misses. It's the best.
Yes.
It's as good as you remember it. If you watch it as an adult, it's just like it was when you were a kid. It's the Cinnamon Toast Crunch of television shows.
Right? Yeah. When you hear the theme song playing,
Oh, 100%. And that I remember watching the intro with the boat and all that. Fantastic.
Yep. Perfect stuff. So do you want to talk a little bit more about, the comic? And you don't have a link for it right on Kickstarter because I don't remember you sent me a link.
Yeah, so I've been originally the plan was to have the notification page up by now. But I went back to the drawing board. I brought on a gentleman, Chris Michael, who you may know from Crit. I think he's done your show a few times. He's remodeling the page to make it look more professional than I originally had it because I'm really bad at design. And then I sent Brad Shipp on the artist to go back to the drawing board and set up some sketches of the main characters. So I put them up on the video and some put up their images. So I decided to remodel, make it look a little better. There's so many good campaigns out there on Kickstarter. I looked at mine. I looked at what was out there. I was like, up my game. I can't go live looking like this. So I sent him back to the drawing board. It's like, and nice about Brad, he's not getting paid for these extra sketches. I didn't pay him for the per sketch. He's getting paid for the comic book, the art, but he's not being paid for the sketches. And the fact that he's going back to the drawing board and doing some sketches for the video that I'm making for it, it's just a sign of dedication on his part and being just a good teammate, a good partner. So I decided, let's hold off on the notification page until it's going to be right. And until it's the best product I can put out there and make people want to give me their money, because it's a huge deal for someone to be like, "Hi, we're in a money's hard.
Right.
Everything groceries
Yeah.
are like twice the price they used to be. Here's my money for your comic book." That's a huge
Right.
ask. So I better not present
Mhm.
them something stupid. Make
Now,
it look as
let
good as
me put you
possible.
on the spot. Can we trade eggs for comics? Because I'm up a tiny bit on eggs right now. So I would be happy to barter, a quarter dozen for a comic.
As time goes on, that becomes a better and better deal all the time.
I'm not gonna say no yet.
my only concern would be how it would ship.
Hey, we'll figure out the logistics later. They're eggs, man. They're eggs.
But my goal is to have it the notification page up next weekend for a early March launch date for 30 days. But like I said, I want to make sure it's perfect. I want to make sure the video is perfect. I want to make sure the art that I show you is as best as it's going to get. I want to make sure the page looks as professional as it's going to get. Because once again, as I said before, I want your money, and that's a big. I think that's a bigger ask than a lot of artists think it is.
Building value, you can never go wrong with building value. And if you put effort into it, people will value your effort. I think that's the only path to go on, for quality, for sure.
Especially with you're planning to make a big series out of this. You don't want to throw the first issue out crowds, then nobody wants to come back for the first one.
Yes, that's what keeps you up at night, thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh no.
Yeah.
But the first Kickstarter issue is going to be a big deal. I mean, there's always the thought of momentum, and hopefully the next one builds and builds and builds. But yeah, at the same time, if what you have doesn't look like you put enough care into it, then yeah, no one should buy your comic book. They need to look, even if they look at it and they don't think this is the greatest art they've ever seen or the greatest writing they've ever seen. At the very least, I want them to look at it and say, this guy gave a shit a lot. You can see it right on the campaign. That's what's important.
Yeah. And that's why indie comics are doing so great now, because when you look at a lot of the mainstream stuff, it's just not compared to what it was back in the day. I mean, some of it is a big hit, but there's a lot of it that's just, just throw cool explosions and artwork, and the story's just not there. It's just really lame.
I think the nice thing about just social media, but crowdfunding is that it is the golden age of indie books. If you can do it right, and if you have the heart in there, any book can be successful, regardless of the publisher who's doing it, regardless of the distributor who may or may not take your book, regardless of the comic book store who may or may not have faith. The crowdfunder is the ultimate democratic way for any person with a voice to try to make it out there. Because
you don't like my book, I put the effort in it. It was successful. So say whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah.
And it allows you to say whatever you do want, because some people are going to see it and they're going to be like, I'm offended, I hate that. Well, you have to buy it. Some people will look at it and say, I love it so much, here's my money. And the voice of the people will have their time, and that will determine whether you sink or you swim. And all you can do is go out there and say, my people, buy my book, and they will find you.
Right. How strongly do you gather your people? It's not everybody, but how strongly do you get the ones who would be interested in it?
Exactly. And I don't think there's any book that, maybe not even every book even should be able to get 100% of the fan base out there. 100% of the comic book readers in the world should not want this one comic, because every comic book should have something unique to it, something that makes it a little bit different, and not everyone's going to like that one thing. But the people who do like it, you got to get them out, and you got to get them dedicated to it, and you got to make them want more, and that is a goal. And the one who does the best is the one who gets most of their people, let's say, who are interested in their subject matter, their story, their whatever, to the campaign, buying their book, and then you can sit and go, I found my niche. These are my fans.
Yep. Yeah, they're gonna ride it out with me. We can have fun together, and that's it.
Right, 100%.
Yeah.
Because even in reality, not everybody shops at Walmart. You know what I mean?
Right.
They are huge. It's a juggernaut, but it's not for
And they shouldn't.
everybody. You know, it's not for everybody. Like Ronnie, you know, Ronnie's definitely staked his claim on. It's not for Ronnie. So, but
Well,
there are people who
Yeah.
vote with their
But
dollars,
Jason
and
knows the
Walmart
reason
will
why that
exist.
is.
Yep.
Right. I mean, I prefer the McDonald's cheeseburger versus Burger King, but I guarantee there's fighting worse in certain areas. Who will be like, "You son of a," you know, it is Burger King, goddammit. And I'm like, no, for me, it's. But you know, there's so much stuff that's out there that every restaurant has some group, you know, of people who are dedicated to their restaurants. You know,
Yep.
and
McDonald's
be,
French fries. It's
oh my
almost
God,
like a phrase of its own. McDonald's French fries. You can get French fries anywhere, but you can't get McDonald's French fries.
Right, and I think McDonald's is doing just fine with the people who love McDonald's.
Well, it's not even just with restaurants. Sometimes it's just that one sandwich.
Oh yeah, 100%. And if the end of all Terminus is somebody's favorite sandwich, I will freaking take that as well.
That's it. Absolutely.
Like I said,
home of the Whopper.
It's
You
like,
got
I
it.
love a Reuben.
The Reuben?
I love Reubens, and if I could find a place that makes a good Reuben sandwich, I'm gonna go to that place every time just to get that.
Yep.
Exactly, and like I said, that's what's great about the indie comic book market is that it's so there's enough for the niche for every single person out there to find something that speaks to them, both as the writer and as the fan. And all you have to do as the writer is put out what you love, and you do it well enough that the niche finds you.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to make a submission to a publisher who says, I already have 5 zombie books.
Right.
So what? My zombie book is awesome because it might be saturated with something that's not great. You know what I mean? So
and
we just
yeah, I said there was someone who I interviewed just a little while ago, and he's a cool guy, Jorge Alvarez. And I must admit, I mean, he gave me the idea. You know, told me he's writing a new zombie book, and I thought, another fucking zombie book. But then, oh my God, he wrote something new with zombies that I'd never heard of before. And I thought, you know, as someone who's been reading books on zombies and seen movies on zombies for 40-something years old, I'm still seeing a book that I'm thinking I never thought of zombies in a story like this before, and it's there. And my God, I found it, and he will find there's a niche there for that. And even these years, and some publisher, probably is going to go. I've read every, I don't care about zombies. I don't. It's like, but you haven't read one like this before. Try that.
Right.
Book. And by the way, it's called Exodus Z, and it's on Kickstarter so you guys should check that book out as well. I was shocked when he gave me the concept. I was like, Jesus Christ, I hate you for thinking about it before I did.
Yeah, we had a similar experience with Path of the Pale Rider. Very fresh zombie story. You know what I mean? Like, and it is coming from somebody who was completely turned off by Walking Dead, after season 7. But this was fresh. And this is like, it's a good story first, but it's a fresh zombie story. So I'm back. You know what I mean? Like, if
Lori Casatera, I brought her to you guys,
facts.
I think.
Yep. Oh, did you? Excellent. Yeah, she's awesome.
Yep, you did.
That she was one of my earlier clients. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm a publicist for Indie Comics.
Excellent. Yeah, that's awesome.
So, sorry.
With your comic and everything, have you? No, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Sometimes I think there's a bit of a delay. So, like, I think you're done talking, and so I interrupt before you started.
Yeah, I think it's a delay on my part. Yeah.
Sorry. So go ahead with your question. Sorry.
No, my internet's not working that great right now. Sorry about that, everyone watching. But with your comic, are you doing Kickstarters? I mean, not Kickstarters, cons?
Eventually, I want to jump into some cons. Unfortunately, I was talking about earlier the importance of money. Cons are expensive, and
I'm learning that now. Yeah,
and I find the reality of cons is that it's interesting. Some cons are too small to make a good amount of money. Some cons are so big that it's hard to make a good amount of money. So you got to find like that middle ground convention that has that's comic book dedicated, not what I call a celebrecon, and it's focused on celebrity, and it's big enough to have a big fan base, a lot of people there, but not so big that people are walking past to go get the celebrity autograph. So it's hard to find the right one to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Have you thought about going to like sci-fi conventions?
Well, keep in mind,
You'll probably do really good there.
I mean, for financial reasons, I kind of stick to Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. And at the moment, the big ones are you got Rhode Island Comic Con, you got Boston Con, you got Terrific Con, you got Plastic City Comic Con, a few others. Right now, we don't have a sci-fi focused convention in the area. And as a Rhode Islander, like I said, I only go to a couple of states. we stay within our borders quite often.
Gotcha.
We got nowhere better to go. You know what I mean? We can make it happen up here.
Right.
But if any convention wants to
sometimes
bring me along,
those youth conventions, people buy up books like that.
Yeah. Like I said, if there's any convention out there that wants to buy my table and bring me out there as a special guest, I will take it.
Yeah.
Right.
I got invited to a con in April, and I really want to go, but like when you really sit down, like you have to have something to sell. You got to have a table, and if you come home with everything that you leave with, like that's a very expensive trip, you know, and at that point, maybe you take a little bit more time and like really build up your inventory. Like I think you have to start planning those further in advance than I anticipated.
Yeah.
Just to go and have a good showing.
Well, like I said, the big conventions like Rhode Island Comic Con, a table at Rhode Island Comic Con is about $425. That's 85 books. You need to sell at $5 a piece to break even. Now, counting if it's out of state, you need to get a hotel,
lodging. Yep.
It's hard to break even on a convention. And I will say, well, I do love the idea of I got my name out there. I made a network. Unfortunately, the way the world works now, networking can't just be, it's too expensive on its own right now to just go to the convention and not break even, at least on the table. And it is tough. It's so hard. There's so many of them. And like I said, the bigger conventions, unfortunately now, are not centered on the comic book writer. They're centered on the celebrity. So most people who are there are not there to buy your comic book. They're there to go see Brendan Fraser, William Shatner, whoever the hell else is there. You know, they're not.
Right, I was gonna say Will Wheaton. Yeah.
Right. They're not there to talk to you.
Yeah, your book it's hard to compete with Wesley Crusher. Like, it's just the way it is. Yeah.
Especially when those autographs are like $8,500. You mean, someone
they're
buy
not
one autograph or buy your book for $5. They're gonna. They're there for your autograph.
Right. Yeah. So now, you know, we're almost into the hour long. So we're going to ask you some questions, you know, since it's a horror show, and your comic has some horror elements to it when you really think about it, you know.
Sure. Indeed.
So
really think about it, Jeffrey. Really think about it now, Jeffrey.
No pressure. Here I come. Ready.
So what would be, you know, and we'll add it to the list. You know, since it's sci-fi, what is your favorite sci-fi movie of all time?
Ooh, sci-fi movie of all time. That's a tough one. There's a few out there that I would count among my favorites. Aliens is a big one right there. I'll go with Star Trek 2, 4, 6, and 8. And then
that can be included with sci-fi horror.
Event Horizon, yes.
That's a
Party on, yeah. But again,
and with that,
it starts to bleed into that religious horror towards the end, and it just makes it that much better.
Sam Neill is worth a price of admission by himself.
Yeah, 100%. Just a really good movie. One of those horrors that fell through the cracks early for a young Foggy, you know, but I remember being like, what the heck is this? Because it looks safe enough to sneak through the house because it just looks like another space movie. But it's really not. It's really, really not. It's so good.
Exactly.
So would that be would your favorite horror movies be different, or is it like the same?
Aliens, I think, is universally one of my favorites for sci-fi or horror because it's such both in
Yeah,
category.
facts.
And then it depends on what you count as horror. As a kid, Monster Squad was a great movie for a kid horror movie that was like incredible for its time. But you can't go wrong with Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Classic. Both man's got nards.
Right. Some things are so great. So I would say those. Probably, maybe Aliens is probably my favorite in the horror, especially horror sci-fi category.
Yeah, Aliens is solid.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So, with that in mind, like, do you have like a favorite horror movie slasher like Freddy, Jason? Were you not a big fan of that? Because sometimes people are not a fan of that type of horror.
Freddy Krueger is the best slasher villain that's out there. Michael Myers is fine, Jason's okay, but at least give me a character who talks. Give me a character who has something to say and is, it has a personality. I'll go with the personality every time. I think, people are going to hate me for this, and that's fine. Go on and give me the hate, but buy the comic book as you're hating me. Hate buy my comic. But if you can take out Michael Myers and basically throw in Jason in the same movie, and you probably wouldn't have to change much, to me, that's not a great villain. Freddy Krueger, you can never put Jason in a Freddy Krueger movie. Replace Freddy Krueger with Jason, and it would ever be the same movie. Freddy is an actual character, and that's what I like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say that because with Freddy, he could use his imagination to kill you. Like with the Dream Master, he turned the girl into a cockroach and squished it when she was in a box. And then I don't know about the other slashers, but Freddy's own comic book series. And I just remember one issue where a daughter was being attacked and she pulled her father in, who was like military, and in the book you literally had him shooting hundreds of Freddys dressed up in other military outfits trying to reach the father and daughter. So I don't know, I could see Freddy transition well into a comic, while the others I think it would grow old after a while because you're just having Jason go around killing people. And it's like, how many times can I make this same kill the same? Different. You know what I'm saying?
100%. 100%.
So with that in mind, you talked about your favorite horror movie, your favorite slasher. Is there a horror series or a horror movie that you just...
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
He asked if you had a favorite horror series.
Oh, like on television?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember back in the day, didn't Freddy had like the Night Gallery or something, which was pretty cool back in the day. Twilight Zone is always fun. I like the first 3 seasons of The Walking Dead, and then it got redundant. But I will say maybe my favorite horror for television. I don't know. I don't know if I would have a good answer for the favorite horror TV show. There's a lot of good ones that are out that I've seen. I just can't. One's not coming to mind exactly as one that stands out. My wife would know. She loves horror.
Gotcha. Yeah. Now, being a sci-fi nerd and a horror nerd, is there one movie that you just don't like because how disgusting and gory it is?
I will say I'm not a huge fan of the torture horror movies that much. Like Saw, I'm not a big fan of Saw, and I must admit I probably skipped over like the Hostel movies and the stuff. I don't know if it's necessarily disgusting. I just don't understand my entertainment in it at the moment. So I don't usually pay attention to those.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not, I went and saw Hostel at the movies, and I'm like, not only do I not want to see a movie like this again, I don't want to travel internationally either.
Yeah, I will say the torture porn is just not my thing.
No, totally.
Yeah. Sometimes it just doesn't even seem like there's no storyline there with some of the movies that come out.
Exactly. That's one reason I prefer sci-fi. Usually, even bad sci-fi has a good story behind it. At least tries
Right.
to.
What's your thoughts on Evil Dead?
I will say I only ever saw the original, and I saw Army of Darkness, but when I was way too young to probably get the joke. I think I'm fine. Like that. I mean, I like Sam Raimi well enough, but I will say I've never been pulled into that genre, that series.
It's my least favorite franchise, 100%. I just don't. It's not for me. Like, obviously, it's perfectly fine because people love it, and I'm sure little old me is not going to make them make one less movie if somebody backs the money truck up. But
right.
It's not for me. Like, I have zero connection to those movies, and I like Bruce Campbell and I like Sam Raimi, but that's just, I felt like the original was way too gross. I felt like it was like pointlessly gory, and it didn't even look realistic. It just looked like, how many ways can we smash lasagna? But beyond that, I didn't enjoy the Army of Darkness movies or the follow-ups to Evil Dead.
Yeah, I mean, at least I'm always aware of them, but I've never been so sucked into that franchise that I've seen. I think I've missed. I didn't see the TV show, and I probably only I don't think I saw the second Evil Dead at all. But
yeah, they came out with the video game too.
Oh yeah, I definitely have not played the video game. I haven't. I've been out of games for a little while now. I used to be more of a gamer than I am now. I got old, I think.
Happens to the best of us, man.
Yeah.
It's not just getting old, but all three of us could agree when you actually start taking comic book making seriously, you don't have time to really do that stuff.
Yeah, I will say I don't have the time. I used to back in the day. I used to play DC Universe
unless
Online.
You're educated to it.
Yeah, but I mean,
unless you're Jack Kirby.
I got a Green Lantern character.
Yeah, like DC Universe Online. I used to love that game a lot, but it just sucks up so much of your life. If you want to be competitive, your life needs to be dedicated to it. And at the end of the day, you finish the video game, or you only have the video game. I'd rather have a comic book in my hand. I'd rather have a podcast in front of me. I'd rather, so I decided trade off. Let's do something concrete.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Sorry to all the video game nerds out there.
Awesome.
There's enough for everybody.
Like questions to ask him.
There's
Jason?
So many opinions. No, man. Like one day when I make my tour of New England creators, like you and I'll have to go somewhere and have some potato skins or a beer or something.
Sounds good to me. That sounds absolutely perfect.
Sounds good. But no, thank you for coming on, and thank you for the cornucopia of awesome guests you sent our way, man. And also, I feel like you have a very important role, like seeing the success of people who have used publicists with their crowdfunding efforts. It makes a huge difference, and it also has built this awesome dynamic in our community where, I don't know, it's kind of it's kind of what we were talking about making your Kickstarter page pop. It's like there's been so much effort that's been put into making comics that were already good a step better, because now we're bringing in people who know how to make things look good and know how to find eyes for us to be in front of. So no, it can only make us better the more we get to add to our teams. Once we, as we get a strong base and it's common for everybody to have a publicist and to value that section, it's only going to make everything else better.
I agree 100%. And like I said, it's fun watching a client of yours break records for themselves. I mean, I've had clients, almost every client I've had has broken their backer records, I've never had a client who has not hit a goal of theirs. And some of their goals you just watch, and it's comforting to see when they quadruple their last campaign that they've had, or and you just sit back and you just sit back and you feel a little bit of pride. It's like I helped that out.
Yeah.
You can see what they did. It feels good.
See, I would like to sit down and talk with you specifically about that part of what you do, because
Facts.
that's a whole nother wrinkle. That's a whole other wrinkle to what you do. Like on top of being a creator, like you're also a jet fuel pack. Like you're like a level up in the game. So no, like I think that would be a very cool conversation to have. We should do that soon. That would be awesome.
I'd be more than happy to do that. Yeah, I would definitely set up a time for that. It's fun to talk about it, and it's fun to see it manifest itself in popular campaigns. And I can go down the list, and the ones I've seen that I've had some that have broken $12,000, and ones that are broken their backer record, broken their and when you watch them explode, and you watch them start building their fan bases and everything else, you do feel just a little bit a part of the experience, So it's like your comic book. It's like your child. The comic book is your child too, just a little bit, just a tiny bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So so anyone who's out
really
there, thank you so much. So like I said, anyone who's out there, I only ever take like 2 or 3 clients in a month, so I tend to book quickly.
Yeah, Jeffrey Haas, thank you, man. Like,
my pleasure.
Yeah. Really good shit.
Thank you. You helped this show. You helped this channel grow. You really have
by sitting. I appreciate that.
In all the.
Well, I totally appreciate that, guys, and I want to thank you so much.
It's hard enough trying to find people, but it's great when people send other people our way. So yeah, thank you for all you've done to help this channel. I appreciate it.
There'll be more coming. Like I said, I always have somebody else to send your way, so keep some spots open.
Sounds good. Hey, Ronnie, I think we had another. Awesome. This was another solid, probably a triple. If in the first few innings when your legs are fresh, I feel like this was a pretty solid show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry if I was lagging at all. I don't know if I was lagging with everybody.
You were probably. No, I don't know.
Thank you, everyone.
It's all good.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Pops. Thank you, sis. Everybody watching and everybody watching on the afterplay. We'll see you all next week. Peace.
Yeah, y'all be good.